Hello, everybody. Today we are going to be learning more about key signatures. In particular, we're going to be naming flat major keys, and then we're going to practice building scales that are related to those flat major keys. If you've already memorized your order of flats, it'll help in a lot of different ways. It'll help you build the scales that we're talking about. It'll also help you name the keys that we're talking about, but it'll also help you in other ways. Having the order of flats memorized will help you read your ensemble music in band, choir, and orchestra. It'll help you sight read new pieces more quickly so that you can focus on other things like rhythm and dynamics instead of having to think about all of the notes as much. It'll also help you memorize your scales, which is critical in the discipline of learning an instrument or practicing on your voice. This time, we will learn how to easily name flat key signatures and build those scales using our already pre-established musical alphabet. The important thing to remember about this alphabet is that after the letter G, one note higher is not H, but it goes on to A instead. A couple of new vocabulary words this time. Major is referring to a tonality that is happy sounding. My choir people will know that the resting tone is do when we are singing a major piece of music. The opposite of major is minor. It's more sad or spooky sounding, and it has its resting tone on la. This particular time, we're going to be ignoring minor scales completely and talking only about major scales. What is a scale? It's a sequence of notes played within a given key signature. Today, we're going to be taking 8 notes at a time and practicing going up and down that scale. The name of the key signature really matters when you're playing a piece of music. The reason for that is that every piece of music has something called a resting tone. It's sort of a harmonic gravity that makes one particular note feel more like home than the rest of the notes. In most choirs, we're going to call that resting tone do. If you're a band or orchestra person, we usually refer to that note as tonic because we usually aren't singing our do, re, mi scales. So the name of the key signature is not only going to be referred to as do and tonic, but it's also going to help us establish how we play a scale that would help us prepare a piece of music that we're learning. For example, if a piece is in E flat major, we would use the E flat major scale, meaning that it's going to start on E flat, the high note in the middle of the scale is going to be E flat, and the last note that we play is going to be E flat. Now that we know what key signatures are, we know what major scales are, how do we know the name of the key signature when we are reading the notes? We already know how to tell which notes are flat, but how do I know the name of the key signature itself? Usually, it's easy. All you have to do is look at the second to last flat in any flat key signature, and whatever that second to last flat is that key signature's name. A couple of things to remember when you're using the second to last flat rule. Remember that when reading our key signatures, we read them from left to right, so that it's B, E, A, D, G, C, F. Having that order makes reading key signatures and naming key signatures very easy. Sometimes there are fewer than 2 flats, so that rule doesn't work, and we're going to come up with some exceptions. We'll talk about that later, though. This key signature has 7 flats. So what is the second to last flat when you have 7 flats? Well, it's the 6th one. So I'm just going to go back to the order of flats to help me remember. If the flats are B, E, A, D, G, C, F, what was the second to last one? It was C. And since it's flat in the key signature, I have to say that it's C flat. So what is the name of that major key? The answer is C flat, meaning that that would be the first and last note of the scale, also known as the resting tone, tonic or do. Another example. This flat key has 6 flats. Let's use the rule. What is the second to last flat in a key with 6 flats? Now it's going to be the 5th one. G flat. G flat is the name of that major key, and it would be the note of the scale that we would start and end on, and it would be the resting note of that piece. How about if there's only 5? Well, the second to last flat will be the 4th flat. D flat. D flat would be the name of the key. D flat would be the starting and ending note of the scale, and it would be the resting tone of the piece of music. For a key with 4 flats, the 3rd flat is second to last, making the name of this particular key signature A flat. When there are 3, the 2nd flat is also second to last, and that would give us the name of E flat. This key, although seemingly simple looking, often causes a lot of errors because we need to know the second to last flat, not the 2nd flat. So what is the second to last flat? It's a B flat. So this is the key of B flat, meaning that our scale would start and end on B flat, and the resting tone of the piece of music would be a B flat. Uh-oh. This doesn't have enough flats to have a second to last flat. If there's only one kid in line at an ice cream stand, who's second to last in line? That's impossible. We don't know. So we have a different rule. So if there's only one flat, the rule is the funky key of F has only one flat. It's a little bit of an alliteration to help you remember that the key with one flat will be F. This key has no flats at all. So if you see no flats and you see no sharps, then you're in the key of C. So the name of this key would be C major. The starting and ending note would be C. The resting tone would be C. However, did you notice something strange when we only had one flat or when we had 0 flats? F major did not have the word flat in its name. C major did not have the word flat in its name. Now let's build some scales. Scales don't have to have 8 notes, but they usually do, and so it's good to practice it that way. We can practice writing our scales ascending until we hit the name of the scale, and then descend until we end on the name of the scale. If that sounded confusing, don't worry. We're going to go through some examples. Just remember that the first note, the middle note, which is usually the highest note, and the last notes will always be the same, and it'll always be the name of the key signature. You need to include any sharps or flats from the key signature in your scale, though. This one will be easy because there are no flats and no sharps. And if you remember from our exception, if you see no flats and you see no sharps, then you're in the key of C. So what is the name of that major key? Well, we just heard it. It's C. So that means that the scale has to start on the letter C. What's the next letter? Well, what's one note higher than C? It's D. And after that, E, F, G. Remember that after G, we go back to A, then B and C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C is our final answer. Then we should practice the scale going downward as well. C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. What is the second to last flat in this one? Oh, we don't have enough. So we have to remember that the funky key of F has only one flat. The name of the key is F, and so that will be the starting and ending note of our scale. Just go right up your alphabet, except with remembering one new thing. That says B flat, so when we're spelling out our scale, we have to include a B flat over here. For our final answer being F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. And as always, we should practice the scale backwards as well. F, E, D, C, B flat, A, G, F. If there are two flats, it's easy. We just take the second to last flat. We'll start on that note, which is B flat, and go right through our alphabet. Three flats, same procedure. It'll start and end on the second to last flat, which is E flat. When there are four flats, we'll start and end on A flat. If there are five flats, our second to last flat is D flat. And so D flat will be the one that we start and end on. If there are six flats, it means the fifth flat is going to be second to last. This scale's name is G flat. When we have all of our notes being flat, we start on C flat. So when we spell our scale, C flat, D flat, E flat, F flat, G flat, A flat, B flat, C flat, and then of course backwards as well. C flat, B flat, A flat, G flat, F flat, E flat, D flat, C flat. Luckily, we usually won't have to play this scale. The scale called C flat has an enharmonic equivalent that your music teacher will teach you about, making this scale just a little bit easier. Let's reflect on naming these major scales and creating the scales based on the keys. As a music reader, what benefits are there to knowing the name of the key? How can practicing a scale before you play a piece of music prepare you for greater success with that piece of music? And lastly, did you notice a pattern of whole steps and half steps in the scales that we just spent a lot of time writing out? Usually this is the part of the video where I would congratulate you on learning the new thing and say goodbye. But this last question is so important, I'm going to just give you a little bit more free education. Look at this scale. We have three flats. The second to last flat is E flat, and so that's going to be our starting and ending note. If you look at the symbols on this screen, the little blue arches represent half notes. The little red diamonds represent half steps. The blue ones are whole steps, and the red ones are half steps. What's cool is that you can take any major key in the universe, whether it's a flat key or a sharp key, and play it on any instrument, and it will always have this pattern of whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Also known as whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. In choir, it would be do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And you'll notice that there's always a half step between mi and fa, and always a half step between ti and do. Now you know how to name all of our flat key signatures and create all of the flat major scales. Congratulations. Have an absolutely fabulous day.